I don't know. Is it getting any audio in? It's not going to tell me. Hold on. Let me make sure. Hello? Okay, we're getting audio. So again, again, the website is called arc.intel.com, where you can go and evaluate different types of processors. Of course, they even have solid-state drives. Let's talk briefly about that. What is a SSD, which stands for solid-state drive. And a solid-state drive is a way of, basically it's not spinning, right? If you ever had an older computer or you've heard computers running, sometimes you hear it spinning in there. Okay, there's a hard drive that spins, okay, and it's magnetic. And one of the downfalls, of course, of a hard drive that's spinning and it's magnetic is that it could fail. Where a solid-state drive is almost like the memory in your phone, right? There's nothing spinning in here. It's pretty much flash memory is what we would call it. And it's memory that's stored in, like you have your USB device. It's just chips, and the data is stored inside the chip itself. Where with a traditional hard drive that spins, again, the data is stored in sectors that it goes around as it's spinning. And so a solid-state drive and I guess Intel makes solid-state drives. I didn't really know that. Usually the solid-state drive I either get with my computer, my Mac, at least the latest one I bought was with my Mac, or with an external drive like Western Digital or one of those.
Passport.
Yeah. Yes?
I have a question. So regarding the old Apple iPods, they used to have, I think, something that spinned in there.
Yes.
Would that be that? Because I would remember it was like a big, bulky iPod.
Yeah, that was the old one. Yes, I remember. Yes, maybe they had a spinning hard drive in there, but of course most of the stuff today is flash memory. But yeah, I think the original iPad or iPod.
Yeah, iPod.
Yeah, used to have a spinning hard drive.
It was the black and white one.
Yes, I remember that. So again, there's flashes. So let's talk about where we can price. Of course, probably one of the best places to price is PC Parts. What is it called? PC Part Picker? PC Part Picker? Okay, so on this website, PC Part Picker, you can build a system, you can compare a system, you can buy a pre-made system already, and so on. It's a great way to browse individual parts, and you can build your own system. You can buy one that's completely built already. They have a guide that goes over, how much things cost and what would go into it. And then, of course, you can system build. Okay, you can build your own system there. So you can go through and choose a CPU, how it's cold, choose a motherboard, choose memory, choose storage, choose a video card, choose a case, and so on. A lot of gamers will build their own system, right? The system I built, the last system, I just went to, Computer Center, Central Computer.
Central Computer.
Yeah, I just walked in there one day and just bought all the parts I wanted and walked out. It cost me like $1,300, I think, maybe somewhere around there, $1,400.
Yeah, that's around.
Yeah, and I put the box on the table and just plugged in all the pieces, and boom, off I went. Made sure I put on my Kaspersky virus scan, though, right? So again, this is a good one to go through. Let's look at a pre-made one, though. They have complete builds, okay? And so let's look at price range. So you can sort of give yourself a price range if you want. Of course, that's a little bit too much for me. Oops, no, we want to go this way, right? I'm going to go down. Oh, I guess I can't buy a computer for less than $2,700. Oh, here we go. Here. Oh, that's why I'm going the wrong way here. Okay, let's say my budget's $1,200. That's a good budget, I would say, right? And the reason why I'm kind of going with that is sort of I'm going to compare at Apple, right? Like these ones in front of you. You can get one of these kind of boxy things for about $1,200. So, let's see what we can get with an Intel kind of Windows kind of, these are all kind of Windows systems. Of course, these aren't there. So again, they'll give you an idea. Here's a first build here, first build. And these are people that build computers, right? Oh, look, girlfriend's birthday build. That's quite nice. Okay, here we go. First time build. i5. Here's a only $300. Jeez, I thought the processor would be that much.
That's all you get. It's just a processor.
Okay, so these are people that build them, and they tell you what they put in there. Let's look at this one. Okay. So again, they got the new i7 processor, quad core. Look, it costs $480. And then how is it cooled? It's liquid cooled. And then of course they got a motherboard for gaming, $283. This is the memory. Of course, most applications are going to require that you have at least 8 gigabytes of memory nowadays, right? Okay, so let's talk about the RAM for a moment. So again, there's a memory that we have in your computer. There's 2 different types of memory. Of course, we have RAM, and we can search for RAM. Okay, so probably one of the more important memories that you would put in your computer would be called RAM, for random access memory. Now, the random access memory is the memory that is being used while the computer's on. Okay, so let's say you turn on your computer, the operating system needs to have a place to be stored while you're using it. It needs to be in RAM. In addition, let's say you run Photoshop. Double click on Photoshop. As Photoshop's running in your computer, it needs to be stored somewhere. So as it's working on something, the information from the software goes to the CPU, gets processed, comes back, so on. So it's a storage place in your computer while the computer is running. Of course, when you turn the power off, the data goes away inside of RAM. So it's not a permanent storage. It's random access memory. Okay. Now, of course, the more programs you're running, the more RAM you're going to need. So if you want to run 4, 5, 6 programs all at the same time, the more RAM you have, the better. Of course, RAM is very expensive. I remember one of the first computers I bought was a Macintosh computer back in 1994. It cost like $4,000. 1994, $4,000. It's how much I paid for a car back then. You know what I mean? And I wanted to buy extra RAM for it, and it was like $600 for like 2 gigabytes or 2. I can't remember what was the RAM, but it was like $600 to add a little extra RAM in there. RAM is very expensive, and you'll see that when we start pricing. Let's move on. So where were we at? So at least 8 gigs. 2 8 gigs is 16. That's what I would do. Again, a hard drive. You'll notice there is a storage device here. This one is SSD. And then they put another hard drive in this one, which is a 2 terabyte. Okay, so a lot of computers today will have 2 hard drives where they'll combine, or it'll be a hard drive that's a combination of SSD or solid state drive and a spinning hard drive. They kind of put them together. And the reason why they do that is the SSD can be used for when the computer is turned on, so it starts faster. And then the data that you're saving would be stored on the old spinny hard drive. And when we talk about a spinny hard drive, okay, one that spins, we actually talk about your car. Because if you think about it, your car, you ever have a tachometer in your car, right? Who has a little needle that goes like this as you're driving, right? Okay, that refers to RPMs, and hard drives spin at RPMs, and you'll notice this one has 7,200 RPM. Okay, that's probably the best to get right now. In the old days, we used to have video hard drives that would spin at 10,000 RPMs, and then the less expensive and cheaper ones are the ones that spin at around 5,500 RPMs. And of course, the faster it spins, the faster the data could be retrieved from that drive, or the faster the data can be stored onto that drive. So, this is the standard 7,200. It's normal to have a spinny hard drive that spins. 2 terabytes is a lot of memory. That's a lot. I mean, I can't barely fill. I do fill up 1 terabyte. I do a lot of video. I got a GoPro. I got 2 high definition video cameras. I got picture cameras. Each picture is like 80 megabytes each one. So I store a lot of data, but 2 terabytes. And of course, if you're doing games, right? All the games that you install are at least 20 gigabytes each, right? So the more, and then of course we got our video card. Woo! Okay, so video cards are very, very important to your computer. Basically a video card, the traditional video card was used to display what is on your screen. Okay, that's what a video card is for. You would actually plug in your monitor. Now, we have all-in-one computers now, but in the old days we used to have these big boxes, you know, these cathode ray tube things, and you would connect them to the back of the computer with a wire and all that stuff. You guys remember those days? Maybe not? No, you guys never had to live those days. But we would connect them to our video card, which would be sticking out the back of our computer. And of course there's memory on the video card, and you know, the memory is important. You know, if you're going to do video games, 2 gigabyte video card. One of the problems that we run in today is in the cheaper computers, they take the video card and they integrate it into the motherboard. Okay, so they're integrated together, and then that video card is really doesn't have a lot of memory on it. And here's the reason why the memory on the video card is very important. Is it comes down to back in the late 90s, early 2000, one of the problems that software developers were coming up with is that the chip was fast, but it was limiting. I could write software that could compute things faster than the CPU could do it. So what Adobe, Apple figured they would do is they're making these graphic software programs, you know, video editing, Photoshop kind of things. They're doing all these things that really require a lot of graphics intense things, and the CPU was slow. So what they started to do was write the software to take advantage of the chips or the memory that is on the video card. And just like game designers do, if you make a video game, you're not going to be using the CPU to calculate all the frame rate and all the textures in the game, right? So it uses the memory that's on the video card to calculate all that information to display it on the screen. So, you know, Photoshop and Apple and all them started, hey, why don't we do the same thing? So they write Photoshop to take advantage of the memory that is on the video card as you're using Photoshop. So that's why, another reason why you want a lot of memory on your video card is because a lot of software takes advantage of it. I'm sure, you know, Facebook does too, right? You ever go to Facebook and you see, especially even on your phone, they have the videos start running automatically, right, nowadays, you know, at least a loop of it, right? I mean, that's taking memory right there. I'm sure it's using the memory on the video card for that. Okay, and then of course they have a box, and then of course a power supply needs to have enough power to run all the parts that you put in there. Operating system, we all love our Windows 10 Professional, right?
No. Crashed on me like twice, I mean 4 times now.
Oh, okay. I don't have a Windows 10.
It sucks.
In fact, I still have a Windows XP in my garage.
Really?
Yeah, I just use it to watch movies. Doesn't run. It doesn't play Netflix though, but it has a DVD player. I can put DVDs in it. Okay, and YouTube somewhat. It'll play those. And then a case and so on. Now, one thing you'll notice is it doesn't have a DVD listed here, right? DVD. What about a DVD? Okay, so you could still, you know, again, the DVDs have been going out of flavor. Everybody's going to download now, right? Let's download movies. Let's download video. Let's download. So Apple doesn't include a DVD player in their computers anymore. You have to have an external one. Windows, a lot of those don't have DVD players anymore. You know, we used to buy games, video games, and they'd come on a DVD. Now we all have Steam, right? You just download off Steam. Okay, so, you know, everything's going to download. But DVD is still something I'd like to talk about because it was you know, a very interesting technology and how it works. And let's go with the test. We gotta talk about the test here for a moment. If you notice, a hard drive or the disk that is in your computer is spelled D-I-S-K, right? D-I-S-K, and that's because it's magnetic. Remember we talked about the spinning drive? There's physical connection inside there. You can hear it in there, and it's magnetic, and it's spelled with a D-I-S-K. But if you notice on your CDs or an audio CD, it's spelled DISC. Okay, and when we see that, it refers to optical technology. It's actually a laser that is inside there. That's why the disc is kind of silvery, right? It's nickel, actually, the metal that they use to make the discs. And it's a laser that is inside there that actually is the data. The laser is the data. The laser makes the data, basically. How the laser makes the data in a DVD or in a audio player, like you might even have a CD audio player in your car, don't you? How it makes data out of that is by the pulse of the laser. And we can write a diagram on the board if you want. Okay? Do one real quick here. So if I cut the DVD in a cross section, it would look kind of like this. Okay, and then the laser would be shooting up this way, shooting up this way. So it's a constant laser. And as the laser doesn't move, the actual disc moves, and the laser moves, they both move, but of course the disc is spinning. As the disc is spinning over top, the laser bounces up, hits the metal surface, and bounces back. Okay? And as it's going, it bounces up and then bounces back. Okay? And so in the disc itself, there's actually a physical distance between what we call a pit and a land. Okay? And so it uses that to come up with the ones and zeros to give you the binary data that is the information. Okay? So the laser itself is being adjusted, and so the drive itself can recognize the difference between it traveling less distance or more distance. Just a little bit of distance. I mean, you can barely see it. It's like atomic level. But there's a little physical distance that is in your disc, and the laser is bouncing off that. And as it travels further this way, it can be a 0, and if it's not traveling as far, it could be a 1. And then it uses that pulsating binary information to produce digital information that we hear as music. So that is the theory behind the optical disc. Okay, and of course Sony and Philips. Sony is a Japanese company, Philips is a European company. They came up with the standards for a DVD in 1982. Was the first audio CD, and of course it holds 720 megabytes, and it has a limit. 1 minute of CD quality sound equals 10 megabytes. That used to be on a test. I don't think it is anymore. Hopefully not. We'll have to look and do a test review today. So at CD quality sound, and we haven't done a talk about that yet. We will in a minute. Let's continue. So there's no audio CD in here, and so on. Let's go look at another system. Of course, you can go to the big main computer. Who sells computers now? Does HP even sell computers still?
Yeah, I still know.
Do they? They still sell computers? Uh-oh. One wolf? What is that? No wonder they're dying. Do we want a laptop or workstation? Laptop? Okay, so let's compare. Again, we got a Chromebook. It has the Intel Pentium processor. Doesn't even say i5, i2. Remember he talked about that? That's probably the cheapest one you can buy. It has 4 gigabytes of memory and has the Chrome OS, not even Windows. Here's the one that's Windows. Has an AMD processor. Okay, what would it be a problem with AMD processor?
School and Porsche.
Yeah. Well, that or maybe some software might not be compatible with AMD somewhat. Hardware-wise is what I meant. Not necessarily software-wise. So they got a bunch of Chromebooks. Whatever. I don't have any decent ones here. $199. Oh, what is this one? Oh God, they go from a $200 laptop to a $2,000 laptop. Right next to it. Really? I'm comparing these two together. Okay, let's see other high-end one. Let's see. their top of the line. This is probably their top of the line HP notebook. Windows 7, where not even Windows 10. Available through downgrade rights from Windows 10 Pro. Because some people don't like their Windows 10, right? Yes. And then they got an i7 processor, but they don't tell you how many cores in that, do they? Why not? Why can't you tell me? 16 gigabytes of RAM. That's really good for a. But it only has. Is this the hard drive? 256 gigabytes SCD storage. I'm not sure what that means. SCD. And then it has its built-in graphics card here, but it doesn't tell me how much RAM is or how much memory is on that. Okay, here we go. It has 4 megabytes of cache, only 2 core. So this isn't the top of the line i7 processor, right? It's not the top of the line. That's what I was trying to say. When you walk around Costco, they're going to say, hey, I got an i7 processor in there, but you might be able to buy, like I said, an i5 that's better than an i7 that's in there. So just be wary of that. This is definitely not the top of the line i7. But of course, it's got a lot of RAM. That's good. 2 8 gigabyte ones. This is a pretty small hard drive. I would fill that up probably within a month easily if I was doing video. So again, when you're storing data, you know, I would say here's the other thing to be wary of is the cheap Apples. Okay, Apple Computer makes these laptops, the 13-inch laptops that only have a 128 gigabyte hard drive. And when you install the operating system, that takes up about 100 gigabytes right there. So you only have like 28 gigabytes to you know, you're going to put your camera, you know, put a bunch of photos on there, put some music on there, it's full. Okay? So be very weary of the inexpensive Apples because of that.
The 512 is like not even that much.
Yeah,
Like,
even the 512 or the 256, they love this. You know.
256, I hate that.
Yeah, look, this isn't even enough for me. I got you know 60 gigabytes of music alone.
So I added a terabyte SD into the side of mine, so I had extra, which is nice. That was worth it.
But you know, having to have an external hard drive to store your data kind of sucks. You know, so you know, just be wary of that. This is big, but it's not big enough for me. Even at a $2,000 computer. Okay, and then but a nice big display, 14 inches, a nice large display. I'm not sure what graphics. This is built-in graphics. I don't know how much memory is on there, so I'm not sure how good that is. And then ports. You know, do I have USB? Of course, Apple's not even selling computers with USB anymore, right? And so on. And then of course they have a webcam. It's only 720p. That's not even high. That's not even high definition. 720p is like low. It's like the minimum high definition. It's like the minimum.
Which you can get for USB. It's just a smaller and it's a dual-sided.
And then of course they got all their crappy HP software that nobody wants. You know. I don't know, whatever this crappy software is, I don't know. I wouldn't use it. And so for $2,000, this is not worth it. And okay, in my mind, this is definitely not worth the price of this computer. Too expensive. Let's see if they have anything else that's decent. Look, this one only has an i3 processor. Look, this one's a Celeron. You might also just get a squirrel in there running around on a treadmill. Okay. This one looks like a little better. Even a bigger screen, too. Okay. So I don't know. There's a lot of things we just talked about. I don't know. Let's go look at, I don't know. Does Dell even sell computers anymore?
Yeah, they still do.
They do? Let's look and see what crappy Dells we can get.
Oh, you want to see like some super overpriced ones actually? Alienware.
Oh, the Alienware? Is it, look, you can't even get to the Dell website. They're probably using Amazon cloud service. Yeah, look, it's not even going. Okay, let's go to Apple. Let's go to Apple. Okay, so Apple still makes computers. Okay, they got their Mac line. Okay, so if for your paper, you can compare two Apple computers. You can compare two Windows computers. You can compare a Windows or a Mac computer. Say, hey, maybe you want a Windows laptop, maybe you want a Mac. You don't know. That's the purpose of this, is for you to go and look and see. Okay, and so let's see. Of course, they have the MacBook, which is very popular, the less expensive one, very thin. It's like carrying a piece of paper around with you. Okay, and if you go to buy, we can then go and see what kind of things are inside this. We want the silver one. There you go. Here's the hard drive. Again, 256 is not a lot of memory. If you got a lot of music and a lot of pictures, it's not going to fit. 1.1 gigahertz dual. That's pretty slow. Intel Mobile. M stands for mobile. It's got probably a slow processor. Same with this. This is pretty slow. So neither, any one of these is kind of a slow processor. But if you're just doing email, typing papers and Word, and doing things like that, this would probably just be fine.
How much is good for for many pictures?
No, because you got
Many pictures, like how much gigabytes?
Yeah, I'm saying if you have a lot of pictures, you want to go with the 512 because it's going to have more space to store your pictures on, right?
Is that the same with music as well?
And music, yeah, music takes up all your hard drive space too,
That's like still really expensive for like what it is.
Yeah, it's still, this is a really not,
Like 512 gigabytes? Crazy.
yeah. So again, and it's only 12-inch screen. Look at that, only 12-inch screen, very small, very small. Not big. Okay, so that was there. Let's go back. Of course, they got the Air, which is a little bit bigger, I believe, right? And it's got nice battery life. So what do I write? What do you write in your paper? You should be writing about things like battery life. I'm on the go all the time. I'm at school. I don't want to have to plug my laptop in. I'm looking for a lot of battery life. So there's a bunch of tables you need to include in your paper, right? You have the needs paper or needs table, system requirements, comparison table, and your final buy table, right? And you saw the samples on Canvas, if you could get the Canvas, right? I had some sample papers in there. So those are the things you should write. Things like battery life would be good. How long does it last? You should compare. Even with the Windows, I'm sure they'll tell you how long the battery life would be. And then, so this is MacBook Air. It has a little bit better processor. Talks about the Wi-Fi. We haven't talked about Wi-Fi support yet. And so if I hit buy, look, this is cheaper than the other one. Has an i5 processor. It's a better processor. Has more memory, doesn't it? It has 256. Oh, look, here it is.
Trade secrets or what the
Be wary of the 128. Not a lot of space.
128 is not a lot of space. If you've got a lot of pictures and videos.
I have 128 gigabytes of pictures probably right now, even on my camera.
I don't think it's counting the OS either, so like with the OS it's like 100.
The thing is, if you've got a laptop and say an iPad, could you store all your pictures and your music on the iPad and then just use the computer for email and stuff? It's all connected.
Okay, and then right here is, of course, the top of the line MacBook Pro. And if I look at the MacBook Pro here, of course, you have a variety of different ones. Notice one of the things about the laptop is the processors are a little bit less gigahertz. You can get a desktop with a higher gigahertz or clock speed. Remember on Intel they had both the mobile as well as desktop processors, right?
But I could split what this one's really big.
Yes?
Are we allowed to compare to MacBooks or?
Sure. 2 MacBooks is fine. So you can go with 2.
I in the bibliography or the MLA format citation, it says to use at least one published computer ad, and it has to be magazine.
No, you don't have to do the computer ad.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
My dad's.
She's asking a question.
I was hoping.
Well, wait till I'm done. I'm almost done here. So in addition, I don't know. Some people say they don't like that touch bar. I don't know. So you might. I don't know. Yeah.
You do what? The paper, the advert.
Mm-hmm. And so, as you notice, the 13-inch, only you can get an i5 processor. You can't even get an i7. But I would rather buy the MacBook Pro 13-inch than any of those other ones. Okay, you're going to get more for your money out of this, more memory. I would say I would get at least a 512 here. So if I was going to get the 13-inch, it's going to cost you $2,000. Simple as that. Mac, $2,000 for a laptop. The 15-inch is going to be about the same. A little bit more, $2,799 for the top of the line quad-core Intel i7 processor, turbo boost, 16 gigabytes of memory, 512 SSD drive, 2 gig memory card, and Thunderbolt point. Hey, look, they don't even have USB ports anymore.
You can go back though. Have you heard of MacTrader.com?
No,
So
then
it's a website where you can get like previous gen wiped computers. So that way you get your USB ports, you get whatever you need, and it'll cost you less than the 2K or whatever it is.
okay. So you might want to use a used one, I guess.
No, you
No.
don't.
Okay.
They're so like crappy once they're old.
Yeah. So just
Well,
be
like-
careful.
Well, I got like a 2014 as opposed to a 2016 when I bought mine,
Mhm.
and like it works fine still.
I
Like,
have a MacBook Pro and it's like the slowest thing ever, and I paid like the most money you could pay for a
Yeah.
MacBook Pro like a few years ago.
really?
So slow.
Yeah, so be wary what you buy. You know, that's it. You should know what the parts are and think about them before you buy. Is what the whole purpose of this lesson is for. You know how. You know,
Carbon flow.
and if you select, you can actually customize, right? You can customize. You can go and change the processor. I want a faster processor. Look at that. I want to look at that 1 terabyte SSD drive for $400 more. Woo! Now, you don't really need something like that. I have a 512 and it's fine because I can store anything I want on an external drive. More memory is always good for my graphics card, maybe. And you can put software in there. If you are using software, you should price some software. You should price your Office in there as well. If you are buying Office, I want to see that in your final price. You should be comparing Office. Remember, put tax in your price as well. I would like to see tax.
How
And
would you get the tax for?
what's that?
How would you get the tax for? Because they don't normally show that on the websites like this. They usually just put that in the final total.
The percentage.
What's that, ag website where you buy PC parts?
Anyway,
Yeah, I think that one shows you tax.
Yeah, I think they show you tax, don't they, in the end? Well, it'd be what, 8.75? We're at 8.75 here, so you times it by 0.0875, right? And it gives you the tax. Of course, if you want a mouse, you might have to price that. Add that to your bag. You want an extra display. Other things you might need would be the adapter. There's adapters to go from what is it called now? Thunderbolt, right? You got to have your Thunderbolt adapter. Now you give me. Oh, here we go. Here's all my adapters. You want your Thunderbolt to AV connection. You want your Thunderbolt to whatever connection. Thunderbolt to your phone connection. Oh, this is Ethernet to connect to the internet through a wire. So, you know, think about all the pieces you will need. There's a whole bunch of things to think about when you're buying a computer. Think about how, and of course, Apple Care. So in case something breaks, you got 3 years. Apple Care is expensive, though. Yes.
Go to a review bag and then check it out. It'll show you the tax rate.
Okay, let's see. Review bag. And so we got all this wonderful stuff. Oh, here we go. Estimated tax. You put in your zip code, and I'm sure it'll give you exactly. Oh, it knows where I'm at. There we go. Okay, any questions about buying a computer at least? I don't know. You're going to have to go through and try. Where else can we go besides Apple? Oh, one more thing about Apple. Remember, you can do a desktop. These things are great. These little box things in front of you. The greatest things ever. If you don't mind having a desktop in front of you, you can get the... These ones in front of you are 21-inch, but you can get the 27-inch. It's quite nice. And then they have the high-definition display, is what they call the Retina display. And as you can see, you get faster processor with it, and you get 1. And look, it's only $1,499. It's a lot less than a laptop. But of course, I'm not going to carry this thing to school and back, am I? That's the only downfall. But if you work at your house and you want to, watch a movie, think this is 27-inch. Come over to my other classroom. Oh, this is 21-inch. Where's my 27-inch? Oh, that's why it's so cheap. Oh, here we go. Oh, there we go. But look at this, top of the line. 3.3 gigahertz processor, 2 terabyte storage, turbo boost, 2 terabyte fusion drive. I have no idea, but that is probably an SSD drive that they renamed to Fusion to give you some things. But this one, the $2,000 one, this one probably would be great. Last you 5-6 years. You'll be click, click, click. By that time, you'll be a video editor probably, and working in Hollywood, hopefully, making some. Oh. Okay, let me stop my recording here.